All right. Can you guys hear me? You guys hear? I hope. All good? All right. Everyone's coming on. Guys there? We're going to be starting in just a minute. I just want to get everybody in. Can you guys hear me okay? Put in the chat. Yes? Anybody there?
We believe there are no insignificant choices. So we just started for me now.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Can you guys hear me okay?
All right. We are good. We are good. Yay. For those of you who have been following me, you know that our first live did not go really well and we totally screwed it up. So glad you are here and you can hear me, because last time you couldn't see me. I don't know. It was a total mess. So I am very, very excited to do this. I am so excited. I'm so excited that you guys are here. And I'm telling you, like, what I have for you, yes, seriously, I'm finishing up yesterday and I was like, this is good stuff. Like, this is really good stuff, if I don't say so myself. Now, at the end, you might be like, that's not good, but I felt pretty good about it. So I am very excited. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on. Let's make sure that you can see that. Can everyone see that okay? Are we good to go? All right. So let me tell you a little bit, just logistically, what's happening here is Warwick, who is my right-hand business partner and who has helped me extensively with my YouTube channel, which you guys don't know anything about Warwick, but he is behind the scenes. He is manning the chat. Okay. So if you have any questions while I'm going, you can pop them in there. He's going to put it in there. He's also going to be giving you links throughout the presentation so you can see, what I'm talking about, linked to some other things as well. All right, here we go. Let's get started. I'm very excited. Okay, so how to get your home ready to sell. We're going to teach you how to sell your home fast and for more money. Okay, is this how you're feeling? Is this how maybe you're feeling, or you're thinking about it? So selling a home is traumatic. It truly, truly is traumatic. And I tell people a lot about this, early on when I'm meeting with them. And I hate to use the word traumatic because it sounds really like bad, really bad. But the problem is that it truly is a traumatic experience because so many people don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the direction to go in, and they're making really, really, really bad decisions that they cannot recover from. And I'm going to actually give you some examples of some of this, because selling a home is also emotional. Now, that's me. That's my husband, Mike. And I'm going to tell you a real life true story about two real estate experts who was one of the most traumatic stories ever. So my husband and I, so I've been in the industry 13 years and worked with thousands of people. My husband is a very, very experienced attorney and a real estate attorney. I mean, he has worked with many people as well. 1,000 people selling homes, contracts, things like that. We are like a super, super experienced team. And we moved last summer. And we put our home on the market, and it was in Chicago. We put our home on the market last April, and we did really, really well with our home process, selling it, getting it ready. I knew exactly what to do. We got a really, really high price. We got one of the highest prices in the subdivision that I lived in ever. And so we really knew what we were doing. We also were able to negotiate a 2-month rent back so that we could actually stay in the house over the summer. Our kids were coming back from college, and we didn't want to miss the summer in Chicago. And so we closed July, it was July 5th. Now, this is not necessarily about selling. This is about the whole process. So we were successful in selling, and we actually closed. When we were looking for a house, and we were looking for a house in Florida, we we went to the lender and I said, hey, I just want to make sure we're good to go. And I did it really early. We got our letter early. We accepted our offer really early. And I was like, every step of the way, I kept checking in. So we're good to go, right? We're good to go, right? He's like, yeah, no problem. No problem. We closed. It was like, we closed, I think, July 5th. We came to Florida July 8th, and we were going to spend the next 2 weeks finding our home. Perfect, right? Because we had the rent back. It was a great, wonderful experience. However, we got to Florida, we found a wonderful house that we liked, and our lender started getting a little nervous. And he said, you know what, Katie, he's like, rates just completely went up. We can't get you the rate that you were looking for. Remember last summer rates went up. We just happened to buy the week that rates like went through the roof, of course. So there's one of our issues. And so we were like, well, what do you mean? He said, we can't do it. He said, you need to go to a bank because you can get a better loan at the bank. A lot of specifics, whatever. So we went to this bank that he recommended. We went to the bank and he said, yeah, no problem. I got my pre-approval, everything completely good to go. And we found out that we weren't going to be able to get the loan. And we weren't going to be able to get the loan because the lender said, because I was a real estate agent, I could not use income in Illinois and Florida. And so we actually got denied from our loan, and we were in a contract and we had sold our house and we had literally no place to go. Literally, we were not approved for a mortgage. And I have to tell you, this was pretty traumatic. Like when I talk about one of the worst experiences that has happened, it was this. And I've never seen this before. I've never had anybody who was not approved, like after they've gone through the initial approval place. And so we had to go back to the other lender, and we did get a very, very high rate. We did eventually get approved, but I will tell you that the sellers on the house that we were purchasing had no idea. And we were very, very up in the air up until about a week before closing. And it was an extremely, extremely emotional and traumatic experience, even for somebody like me who was very, very knowledgeable. And, you know, what I always say is that in this process, I've done so many transactions, closed so many homes, and every single deal I do, I see something different. And because I've done so many transactions, I have this incredible knowledge base of things that can go wrong. And I swear it is every single time there is a deal, I learned something new. And so from that is what I am here to teach you today, is really figuring out what I've learned to help you. So if it's traumatic for me, I mean, what is it like for the inexperienced, which maybe some of you are feeling like this. And, you know, sellers really just don't know where to start. They don't have a game plan. And your early choices will directly impact your profit and your stress levels. And by the end of this session, I know you're going to get this. I know you're going to get this. So, and most people don't realize how stressful it is until it's all over. So now, if you know in the beginning that what to sort of expect, I promise you can make more money and you will have less stress. So I'm going to teach you all of those experiences, and I've actually boiled everything down into 5 steps. Truly, you only need to know these 5 pillars in order to go from start to finish, make the most amount of money with the least amount of stress. So these are 5 pillars that I have created that I really believe that if you are able to master these 5 pillars, you are going to be successful. Okay, so we'll start there. Sell with strategy. Seek your sweet spot between price and peace. Smart upgrades. Everyone always asks me about the upgrades. You know, what pays off and what doesn't, because you don't want to make a mistake updating something that's not going to get you a return. Staging. Should you stage? Is it worth it? And how do you have those great showings? Pricing playbook. Now, this is one where people don't understand the significance of pricing. This is like my wheelhouse. Pricing is my wheelhouse. So that's something we're going to talk about. And then finding the perfect partner. If you are choosing to use a real estate agent, I'm going to show you how you're going to find that perfect person to help. So today we're going to talk about 2 of these 5 pillars, okay? Each Each real section of these probably is like an hour to an hour and a half long of content that I've really distilled down. Today, we're going to be about an hour on these two, and so I'm kind of doing a highlight. And you guys have been on my channel, so you've seen a lot of stuff that I talk about. Each of these 5 pillars, that's pretty much where my content does come from. Okay, so the first one, sell with strategy. Seek your sweet spot between price and peace. And you'll understand this when we're all done with this one. Okay, so this is a house. This is typical colonial. I don't know. How many of you feel that this might be your house? Nothing special, right? Nice colonial in our town. And this is a transaction where I was given a huge lesson in really understanding the planning process where I can now convey it to you. So this was October, not this past year. This was a few years ago. And Cheryl was somebody who worked on my team, and she left me a note and she said, "Hey, checked in with Paul, invited him to the seller seminar. He said it was probably too early at this time. They're thinking mid-year or so next year. Keep us on the list. I'll follow up in January 2020. So this was a few years ago, and I actually created a seller seminar, which is pretty much the first iteration of what you're watching today. And it was an in-person event where people could go and they could listen to me talk about things like this. And I was inviting people who I knew probably would be selling at some point. He had signed up for a valuation of my home site in July. So in October, we invited him to the seller seminar. And so he said he wasn't going to go. And this is what I wrote back to Cheryl. I said, honestly, it's the right time to come to the seminar if they are selling next year. This is for people who are 6 months or more out from selling, FYI. So I was just telling her that anybody who really thinks that they're more than 6 months out, this is perfect for them, and he should have probably come. He chose not to come. And then look what happened. In February, he unsubscribed from all of our stuff. Okay, fine. We get a lot of people that do that. Not a big deal. So his missed opportunity. So we met. That's when he reached out to me originally. I started communicating with him a little bit, but he wasn't really much. They did not attend my seller seminar. And then they listed with another agent in March. So I didn't even get the opportunity to interview. He was just looking on my site, whatever. So they started at $569 list price, and they moved out. I think it was May, they moved out of the house. And if you see here, you can see some pictures. Now, I think my image is covering up that picture, right? So you can't see some of these stuff in the bottom there. So the sellers moved out in May, and you can see what they had done with their first agent, which is something that I talk about all the time, is they replaced their countertops. If you've watched some of my videos, you know that's like my least favorite update. And the reason why is because, that was probably like a $3,000 job. The kitchen's fine. It was fine. It wasn't bad. And they kind of painted it gray. They painted like a gray, not like didn't really work with the warmth of the house, but whatever, not a big deal. They put money into the house. So they had moved out because they had already decided and purchased in another state. So they were gone. So now the house is listed. So the house went under contract in June, and then the deal fell through for the first time. Then they did a price reduction to $549, and then went under contract a second time. The deal fell through again. Now, remember, this is not my listing at the time, okay? I was not the listing agent. Then they went under contract a third time, and the deal fell through again. Okay. So I'm watching this house thinking, oh boy, 3 times. I wonder what's going on. Again, I really didn't know him, but I got this email from him that I'm interested in meeting to review my house, considering relisting with another agent and additional work on the house. Please contact me at your convenience in the coming days. So he had unsubscribed from everything that I gave him. And then in July, he reached out. Remember, the first contact we had was the previous July. He did not educate himself in the seller seminar, and then he just listed with another agent. So the next steps, what I found is they did have some foundational issues. I wasn't really aware of what, because they had the other inspections that these buyers just left. They didn't share any inspection reports. And what I'm going to tell you, and now that I'm on YouTube with, pretty much a national audience, is that every state is different. So what I'm going to talk about here is pertinent to Illinois. It doesn't mean it's necessarily in your area. Okay. In Illinois, we don't share inspection reports. The buyers do not share in the inspection reports with the sellers unless the sellers want it. So I knew there were some foundational issues. I wasn't really sure what they were. They had spent thousands of dollars getting the house ready to go on the market, but they hadn't done some fundamental things to make the house actually sell well. It wasn't staged, and now it's empty, and the price started too high. The price was just too high, and you can see they had done a price reduction. So yes, when you do a price reduction, that means you're not really getting any showings. The house was empty. Empty houses in Chicago are scary. And, so it was now August at this point, and you're thinking you're on a 60-day, on the market. Going into winter in Chicago with an empty house is very, very scary because of broken pipes. So what we did is I told him, I said, you have to have it staged, and you've got to relist it at a lower price. And there was a disclosure that there was a foundational issue from what we could see. And that was what we visually could see. We didn't have any actual real estimates or guesses of this, but we did disclose this, that there was a foundational issue. So we did go under contract. The house looked great. It looked fantastic. Now the deal fell through again with a fourth time. And the problem was that the foundational issue, these buyers didn't even want to deal with it. They didn't even want to credit. They just walked. And so what we did is we had to go out and get our own inspector. I said, we have to address this. We've got to figure out what is going on. And there was a real foundational issue in the house. So we decided we were going to go back on the market at $519. So now, right, that's a much lower price that we went on. But now he's just thinking, am I going to actually be able to sell this house? Was he able to sell that house? So he was 7 months on the market. We did end up selling for $510, and he did sell it before winter, but he had over 100 showings. We had 50 showings just when I had it. And then the other agent had it as well. Very, very painful. A lot of wasted money, a lot of money they spent on getting the house ready that they spent in the wrong places. Like when I came in, I said, you've got to fix up your basement. Your basement is a reason people are not going to want this. And so they had to put money into that. They put it into, the kitchen, but that wasn't the issue. It really was the basement. So it was an incredible amount of stress for them. And then to what end? And this is what I want to ask all of you. Okay. When I'm starting with somebody in this process of selling their home, I say, what is most important to you? Is it ease of sale? Is it money? And everybody's always going to say, of course, it's the money. And of course, it's always the money, right? But is it the money at any cost? Is it the money at an incredible amount of stress, at the risk of not being able to sell? To what end? And so that's the first question I want to ask you is to what end? What is most important to you? So what did they want? What did those clients want? Did they want the money? Yeah, they wanted the money. Did they need the money? Now, I always ask my clients this when they're trying to negotiate or I'm talking to them, we got a low offer. I'll say, okay, I know you want the money, but do you need the money? Do you need this money? Is this going to make or break you? Because if you need the money, we're talking something totally different than if you want the money. And if you want the money, the stress is worth money, right? So how much was their stress worth? How much is your stress worth? Is your stress worth $10, $20, $50,000? I don't know. Or do you absolutely need every single penny? Because if you need every single penny and you're updating your house with things that are not going to get you a return on your investment, you could be doing it wrong. So what if they had planned early? What if they had come to my seller seminar? I'm asking seriously, what if they were like you right here, educating yourselves? What if they had a better agent, an agent who understood what they needed to do with the foundational issues? What if they had kept up their maintenance on an ongoing basis? All of this would have been different, right? What if they had staged early? But all they really thought they needed to do was put their house on the market, go find an agent because all agents are equal. They're all the same. They're not worth the money, but we have to use them. They're necessary evil. That's what I know. A lot of people think that. And so they did that. They just went out, found an agent, and that was it. thought, well, you know what, maybe we'll get a break on our commission, right? Did that help them? I don't know. So this is an actual quote from my client. So we had an outstanding experience working with Katie. The recommendations were spot on to attract people to the house, and she communicated superbly with us as the process unfolded. We had some challenges with a particular issue with the house, and she aggressively managed them with potential and final buyer's agents. She is the definitive expert in her area and achieved what others could not. We underestimated the value of a great agent as they can make good, better, and bad manageable. Now, of course, this is great for me, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about trying to prop me up. What I'm saying is that you have to have this guidance. You have to have these resources. You have to plan early. Because if they had planned early, it would have been a much better situation. They wouldn't have written this review because they would have been like, well, yeah, it was simple and easy and all over, and we did what we needed to do. And maybe our agent wasn't worth as much as she was worth. Maybe, I don't know. So don't make that mistake. Even if you think you have a good property, hire the best in the business. Okay. So, and that's real. I mean, but he had already gone through the trauma, and he was able to write this because he knew how much we had done to him. Again, not about me. There are hundreds of thousands of fantastic agents in this country who will be able to do the same exact thing that I did for them, but you have to be able to find them in your location. So this is what I want to tell you. I want you to remember this. Take a picture of it. Cash in hand or stress on your heart. Weigh them both before you start. This is super important. I want you to make a decision. What is most important to you? Okay, so I have this graphic here. And I think you should probably take a picture of this one or rewind or pause for a second, because this one, it needs a little of explaining, but I would just want to show you. So let's pretend you're saying we need every single penny out, every penny, okay? And so you see where it says seller's desire to sell above market value right there, right? So if that's where you're at, if you or your spouse is like, we need every single dollar out. So you're starting up here. You are going to be in trauma or high anxiety. And the reason why, if you're going to be between trauma or high anxiety, is if you're putting out cash or you're preparing or you're not. So if you're putting out the cash over here and you're preparing, yeah, you can get that high market value. You can. It's going to be a lot of anxiety because you put out a lot of cash and you might be above the market. This price you may not be able to get. So yes, that'll be high anxiety. Now, if you decide you're not getting the house ready, you're not doing any preparation, and you want a high price, you are in trauma. Okay. This is where you probably will be if you are not understanding. So now, if you are sort of indifferent to price, this midline is like, we want our market value. Okay. That's where the midline is. But if you're sort of like, you know what, it's an estate sale. We don't really care. It's a family inheritance. We just want to be done and over. You can have a calm or mild stress. Okay. So I want you to think about this, is that where you want on the money scale is going to determine where you are on the stress scale. I hope this is making sense, just because I see this all the time. Somebody who wants a really, really high price and doesn't put yearly maintenance into the house, it's going to be a really real struggle to get that price. If you want that high price and you're not doing anything in the house, well, then you got to make sure that you're pricing it appropriately. So all of these things sort of work and play together. It's not as easy as it really seems. And I hope that I'm explaining that to you guys where you can understand that. So now what's next? What's next for you on my very first pillar? So I want you to ask yourself, what is most important to you? Low stress or high return? And how much money do you want to or can you put into your home? Do you have partners? Do you have an agent? Do you have a handyman? What do you have to get your home ready? Any friends who have done this before? How much will you make? You need to understand how much you are going to make when you go to sell your home. You can't guess. And let me tell you something. This is, and I'll get to it in a minute, but what you're going to get for your home is, I mean, The buyers are going to tell you. It doesn't matter what you want. The buyers are going to tell you what your house is worth. So that's why you need to understand before you go to market, what will the buyers say your home is worth? I'll talk about how you can find that number. Where are you going to go in the process? If you don't have a place to go to, you should not list your house. I want you to know that if you've looked and there's nothing out there, you can't list your house because you could be homeless. And how logistically will you do this? There's a lot of moving parts. It's not just, I'm going to list my house, I'm going to call the mover, and I'm going to pack up my bags and I'm going to move. It's no longer like that. And, I'm in a generation where people like my age and older, when we bought our first houses, we loved it. We loved exactly the way it looked. We said, we'll probably do work over time. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Those days are over. Those days are over. And so, and I got a lot of videos I'm sure you guys have watched about that. But you need to understand it's different now than when you bought or sold your last house. And I get people coming to me all the time. And if you're like this, tell me, put it in the chat. I get people saying, I bought and sold my houses by myself, 3 times. Well, how long ago is that? Well, it's 20 years ago. So I get a lot of people who tell me that, and that's great. And I know you can do it. But like I told you earlier, is that if it's traumatic for me, if it's emotional for me, and I've done thousands of transactions, what's it going to be like for somebody who literally has no idea? That's why you are doing the right thing by educating yourself. And remember, the whole process is broken down into just 5 steps, and understanding your time frame as well. So I am just going to take a drink here and see. Anybody have any questions? Kathy says, I inherited a house recently. I don't have to get the 30-year wall. I know I have to. Maybe, maybe not, Kathy. That's a great question because that's exactly what I'm talking about. So when you say, and that's why when people watch my videos and I say something, I don't want them to do literally just what I'm saying to do. Wallpaper doesn't always show well, but if the whole house needs to be redone and the kitchen needs to be redone and the wallpaper is in whatever room it is, the kitchen, you might not need it. If the market's super hot and somebody's going to gut the house, you don't need to take it down. So therefore, you're not spending that money. So that's why you need to start planning early. Don't just go out and spend money on stuff without truly knowing if you're going to get a return. And you guys can't know unless you've been in the industry. Truly, truly, truly. You can make a guess, but you're not going to know. Even sometimes I don't know for sure, but I'll talk it through and I'll give consultative advice. Okay, my audio is staticky. Touch the mic and adjust the setting on the mic. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Is that a little better? Is that any better at all? Yes, no? Better? Yes? Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so this is live. I told you guys. Okay, let's keep going. So you are ahead of everyone else because you are here, right? You are here. So cheers to all of you. All right, you're on the right path for sure. I know everybody's seen this type of an image before. It's the iceberg. And what do we know? You don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what's under the water. You don't know what is there. So this is really significant. And I talk about pricing all of the time. I know you may think it's not important. This is super, super important. And I want you to price your home so you get that profit that you're supposed to get. So I'm going to tell you another good story. This is a good story. I don't know who it's good for. It's probably good for nobody. Okay. But this was me. This was Confident Katie, a few years in the business. And I was moved. Maybe the mic needs to be moved on the table. How about a little bit away from me? Moved off the table or on the table? Is that better? It could be because I'm touching the table. It's doing it again. Check the wire. Okay. Is that better? Is that better? Is it staticky still? I feel like I can't tell if it's staticky or not, or if it's just in and out. Any better? Sorry, guys. I know. See, this is the thing. Okay. It only starts with when I talk. Okay, well, I'm going to tell the story, and let me see. It's fine here. Okay, let me just plug in this over here. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, so we're going to try it. We're going to try it here. It's more static when you started touching it for me. More static. Ugh. Okay. Is it still bad, guys? Like, put in the chat. Okay. If it's good or bad. If you got everybody put in the chat. Just like we can hear you, so it's fine. Great. Okay. So I'm thinking that if you're going to go back and maybe watch the recording, it should be okay. Maybe. I hope. Okay. It's okay. All right, good. I'm just going to move forward. Okay. Okay. So this was me, confident Katie. I was a few years in the business, and I was probably overconfident. I was doing really, really well. I came out of the gate flying 13 years ago, sold a lot of homes in my first year. And actually, my first 3 years, I was getting great recommendations, great name for myself in my market. I got a call from somebody who wanted me to come to a listing presentation, and I didn't know them. They just called me. And so it was 3 agents that they had asked to come in, and I felt super, super confident in my abilities at that point. I felt super confident in what I was saying. I felt super confident in my pricing, everything. I was like, I got this. I know I got this. I got this listing presentation. So the house, as you can see, was the house was it was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to put this over here. Okay. All right. So the house was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was so clean. You can see so clean, but it was a little awkward, just a little bit awkward. And the reason it was awkward was because it had this kind of like a galley kitchen, and then it had this room up on the second floor. And the room on the second floor wasn't really, like you can see, it wasn't fantastic. And so I knew that the house wasn't necessarily going to appeal to kind of young buyers because of this little bit of an awkward layout. Now, it was a wonderful house, though. So, you know, and you can see here's kind of like the layout. I know it's a little fuzzy, but when you walk into the family room, there was no mudroom, which young families want in the mud. They want a mudroom there. So I knew that was going to be a problem for young families. This wasn't a great space. In addition, for somebody that had a family, this master bedroom was on the first floor with 1 bedroom here and then 2 bedrooms upstairs. And so you can see that it wasn't necessarily for a young family. And I knew that they probably wouldn't get a ton of buyers. In addition, it was on kind of a busy street. And so I knew that it was probably not going to get a lot of traction. So I, being confident Katie, told them, you know, we went in for July listing appointment. I said, my price is $599. I said, this is what I think it is. Showed them comps that I thought fit, whatever. So I did not get the listing. And I was shocked I didn't get the listing. But look who got the listing. Someone took the listing at $769. True, $769. I told them $599. Now I'm like feeling not so confident. I'm like, oh my God, could I have cost these people $250,000? I mean, if they had taken my number, where would we have been? So they were at $769. Well, very quickly they reduced to $749, and then $724, and now January. So now it's been on the market for 6 months. January price reduction goes to $699. So now I'm feeling a little more confident than I did when I lost that. Okay, so now there's a new agent, and in the industry, you've probably heard me say it. You want to be the third agent in. You want to be the first love, the second. You want to be the first wife. First love, second wife, and third agent in. And that's because sellers, when they overprice their home and it doesn't sell, they think it's the agent's fault when it's actually their price. And so that's why you get the first agent who overprices it, the second agent who then gets maybe a little bit Yeah, when you get a little bit lower, then the second agent comes in and the third agent gets it even lower. So I'm going to go ahead and try and adjust these knobs again. So let me see. Is that better? I'm going to try and adjust that. Let me see here. How about that? Is that better or worse? What do you think about that? Yes, no. While I'm sort of talking, can you tell me, Warwick, how is that better? Lynn says better. Okay, Warwick, is that better? Warwick is my right hand. Hit or miss, going to have to keep going. It sounds like a broken wire. Okay, let me. Okay. Same. Let's